talent alone isn't enough. If you want to excel at writing, you need to start learning about the craft and start doing things intentionally and not just by accident. I was always good at writing, but I didn't realize how much there actually was to good writing until I read my first craft book. And after that, I was so embarrassed. I felt like I'd been walking around with a massive hole on the back of my leggings. In this video, I'm going to share the books on writing that literally changed my life. Maybe they will change yours too, or at least they will change your writing. Unfortunately, I don't have any of these books in my hands. They're all on my Kindle, so you're going to have to settle for images. But here's a small disclaimer. None of these books are perfect. I've noticed that some people, when they read a book about writing, they want a book about writing to be the book about writing, and there just is no such thing. There isn't a single book that can teach you everything about writing. And even if it is about a specific subject, even then it might not be perfect and it might not tell you everything that you need to know about it. Read a wide variety of books and develop your own understanding instead of waiting for one specific book to give you a prescription for writing your novel. That isn't how it works. Just keep learning and put it all together in here. Don't be lazy. By the way, if you're new here, hi, I'm Katri. I'm your new writing bestie, and this is Protagonist Crafts, the place for people who are kind of obsessed with that whole writing thing. So with that out of the way, let's get into the books. The first book on writing I'm going to tell you about is Writing the Breakout Novel and the Workbook by Donald Maass. And the workbook was actually the very first craft book that I ever read. And even that I kind of read by accident. And I'm very grateful to the universe for orchestrating that. So Donald Maass is a literary agent with decades of experience. So I would say he's got a unique perspective of what makes books readable and loved and popular. And it's not just about appealing to the masses or chasing trends or anything. He really looks into what makes stories loved. And he defines a breakout novel as the writer's novel that breaks them out of their, like maybe they've been writing genre fiction before and they've been sort of like maybe known in their own circles, but their breakout novel finally puts them like on the map and makes them known with many, many readers instead of just a few. And then he looks at these breakout novels and sees what's in common in there and how you can perhaps replicate that in your own writing. I really love the workbook. I always use it when editing my novels and where I can learn to add some pizzazz to my writing and just make it more effective. The second book that changed my writing life was Structuring Your Novel by K.M. Weiland. So story structure is the kind of thing that you should read a lot about, so that you can actually develop an understanding of how it works without having to like refer to a plot graph or something. And you do that by reading different books written by different people. And this book is where I started and where I came across the concept of story structure to begin with. And it helped me understand how to write a plot instead of just a series of events between the same covers. And like I said earlier, you shouldn't expect any book to be the one book that's going to tell you everything. Read a variety of books and develop your own understanding. But this book is a very good beginner-friendly, easy-to-approach book on story structure and on plotting. K.M. Weiland also has other wonderful books on writing, like Outlining Your Novel, and they're very good for beginners. And if you're ready to like move on from them, she cites a lot of other books in there, so you can be like, oh, okay, she's read this book, she's referring to this book, maybe I will read it next. And it's going to help you increase your reading list. Now, I read Structuring Your Novel like 7 years ago or something, and I've been reading other books like it after that. And you could also spend 7 years on learning about plotting and story structure, but you could also take a shortcut. My new course, Your Plot from A to Z, is going to help you get your story so that you won't have to refer to a plotting sheet or a diagram or whatever ever again, because you will just understand it. It doesn't matter if you don't know what an inciting incident is. You won't have to learn any new terminology. You will just understand. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. You will just understand your story. So check it out and we'll move on to the next book. Stein on Writing by Saul Stein is actually one of the books mentioned in K.M. Weiland's book on structure. And I just found that a very good, sort of like an overall resource on many things writing. Stein was another experienced author, editor, and publisher, so you can be sure he had a lot of thoughts about a lot of things when it comes to writing fiction. Even if you learn just one thing from this book, I'm sure it's going to be worth it. But I'm sure you're going to have many moments of, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Personally, I really liked the chapter on naming your stories. So if you've ever struggled with that, you could read it, or you could also watch this video that I made. And the next book on writing that changed my life was The Secrets of Story by Matt Bird. What kind of a bird is he? I don't know, but I hope it's a raven. So this book goes over your characters, plot, and other things, but the overall lesson is the same. How to write a story that works and that makes your readers go, wow. I know that writing good stories can sometimes feel like magic, perhaps some kind of blood magic where you need to sacrifice your firstborn or the neighbor's goat or something. But this book, it's going to sort of like show you what's under the hood of great stories so that you can start to replicate that for your own stories and see how to make them better, how to wow your readers. This book is very actionable and it even includes a list of the things that you learn in the book so you can easily refer to it. And it's not a checklist of every single thing you need to have in your novel. He even says that you don't need to have everything, but it just the more things you have from the checklist, the better, probably. He also has a book called The Secrets of Character that goes more into details of creating these great characters, so check that one out as well. Anatomy of Story is another book that changed my writing life, and it's not very sort of beginner friendly and easy to approach, but I would still say that it's a valuable resource. I wouldn't say it's a very difficult book per se, but I wasn't impressed with how it was written, so it's not very easy to digest even if you understand writing. But anyway, you still learn a great lot of things from it. And it's a good companion to something like maybe Save the Cat, where it's like, do this at this point and this at this point. It's going to help you develop a more organic view of plotting and stories. My favorite teachings in this book were the ones about your theme. Yes, the theme of your story isn't some kind of ethereal thing that only very high value philosophical works have. It's it's in everything, in every story, whether you mean it or not. So once again, better to do it intentionally and not by accident. Another book that changed my writing for the better, I only read it last year, it was the best of sentences, it was the worst of sentences. Instead of being a guide for storytelling like the other books I've mentioned in this video this far, this book goes into your writing on a sentence level and helps you write beautiful sentences that say what you mean without extra. And yes, it is written in English about English, but most of it you can still apply to different languages. I certainly have. There's also a book called Building Great Sentences or something like that. I can't remember. It was a bit more difficult. It definitely wasn't beginner friendly, but if you're ready to move on from this one, then that might be a good read next. And the final book in my list of writing craft books that changed my life was Writing the Intimate Character. So point of view is the kind of thing that you think you understand intuitively because you've been reading all this book. You know how it goes. I went to the shop and I saw Stacy, or he went to the shop and he saw Stacy. I don't know why I came up with such a difficult sentence. I felt like I was saying she sells seashells on the seashore. By the way, you should read about Mary Anning as well. It has nothing to do with writing, but do it anyway. She's the original seashell seller. But anyway, what was I? Oh yes, Writing the Intimate Character. Yes. This book is going to teach you the ins and outs of all the possible points of view that you can write in. But also, it goes over how to write emotions and feelings, in your story and how to describe them through these different points of view. And it's a very good and important thing to learn. So please do check it out. Especially if you think, no, I have nothing to learn about point of view. You're wrong. So this was the list of writing craft books that changed my life. And do let me know in the comments if I haven't mentioned something that changed your life. If you'd like more book recommendations for writers, there's a link to my blog post that has more books and I add to it every time I read another good one. If you prefer to learn about writing on video, do subscribe to my little channel and I will see you in another video.